For over 40 years, a huge piece of our understanding of human evolution was built on a lie. Some of the world's most brilliant scientists staked their reputations on a discovery that turned out to be a complete fraud. It was a deception so skillful and so audacious that it sent the scientific community down a rabbit hole for decades, chasing a ghost. This is the shocking story of the Piltdown Man, the greatest hoax in the history of science, and how one elaborate con fooled an entire generation of geniuses. To get how this even happened, we need to go back to the early 20th century. The scientific world was buzzing about Darwin's theory of evolution. Fossils of our ancient relatives were popping up all over the globe, from Germany's Neanderthal to the Java man in Indonesia. But for Great Britain, a scientific and colonial giant, there was a glaring, almost embarrassing hole in their collection. They had no ancient human fossils of their own. Many British scientists felt that the cradle of humanity simply had to be in England. At the same time, a huge debate was raging. What came first in human evolution? Was it our upright posture or our big, smart brain? One side argued that our ancestors walked on 2 feet first, which freed up their hands to use tools, and only then did our brains start to grow. The other side believed the exact opposite, that the brain led the way, expanding first and driving all the other changes. Scientists were desperate for a fossil that could finally settle the argument, the missing link between ape and man. The pressure to find it was immense. This hunger for an answer created the perfect soil for a lie to take root. All it needed was for someone to plant the seed. That someone was Charles Dawson, a local lawyer and amateur archaeologist from Sussex. Dawson was a man with big ambitions. He was a respected fossil hunter, even an honorary collector for the Natural History Museum. But he dreamed of a discovery that would cement his name in history and get him into the prestigious Royal Society. In 1909, he wrote to a friend, frustrated, saying he was waiting for the big find which never seems to come along. Then, in 1912, it looked like his wait was over. Dawson reached out to Arthur Smith Woodward, the respected keeper of geology at London's Natural History Museum. He claimed that years earlier, workmen at a gravel pit on Piltdown Common had given him a strange, thick fragment of a human-like skull. Woodward was intrigued and joined Dawson at the site. Before long, they made a series of incredible finds. They dug up more pieces of the cranium, some primitive stone tools, and most importantly, a jawbone. The jaw was ape-like, but its molar teeth were worn down flat, a uniquely human pattern. When they put the skull back together, the image was stunning. It had a large, human-like cranium suggesting a modern brain, paired with a primitive, ape-like jaw. It was the perfect hybrid. It was exactly what the brain-first theorists had predicted. And the best part? It was British. They hailed it as the earliest Englishman. On December 18, 1912, Dawson and Woodward presented their findings to the Geological Society of London. They called their discovery Eoanthropus dawsoni, or Dawson's Dawn Man. The news was a global sensation. For many, this wasn't just a fossil, it was proof of Britain's central role in the story of human evolution. This story is a wild ride, and believe me, it only gets crazier. If you're enjoying this trip into scientific history, do me a favour and hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss how it all comes crashing down. From the moment it was announced, Piltdown Man was a star. Reconstructions went on display, and for decades, textbooks presented it as a key piece of the human evolution puzzle. The find gave Charles Dawson the fame he'd always wanted. But even in its heyday, not everyone was buying it. Some scientists thought the combination of a modern human skull and a perfect ape jaw was just a little too convenient. As early as 1913, an anatomist named David Waterston pointed out that it looked exactly like the jaw of an ape and the skull of a human, and that it was extremely unlikely they belonged together. In 1923, German anatomist Franz Weidenreich came to the same conclusion. It was a modern human cranium mixed with an orangutan jaw whose teeth had been filed down. These were serious claims, but they were mostly brushed aside. The British scientific establishment, led by the powerful Arthur Smith Woodward, fiercely defended the discovery. The find was just too important, and it fit their ideas so perfectly that any critics were sidelined. Doubts seemed to vanish completely when, in 1915, Dawson claimed to have found a second Womb Piltdown Man 2 miles away, with more skull fragments and a matching tooth. This seemed to prove the first one wasn't a fluke. But as the years went by, the cracks in the story got wider. New fossil discoveries were telling a very different story. The 1924 discovery of the Tong child in South Africa, a small-brained but upright-walking early human, directly contradicted the brain-first model that Piltdown Man supported. The more fossils that turned up in Africa and Asia, the more Piltdown Man looked like an oddball, an evolutionary dead end that didn't fit anywhere. It was an anomaly. And in science, anomalies demand an explanation. By the 1940s, a new generation of scientists with new tools decided to take a fresh look at the famous fossil. The key that would finally unlock the truth was a new technique called fluorine absorption testing. The idea is simple. Bones buried in the ground soak up fluorine from the soil over time. The longer a bone is buried, the more fluorine it contains. In 1949, Dr. Kenneth Oakley, a geologist at the Natural History Museum, applied this test to the Piltdown fossils. The results were the first nail in the coffin. The Piltdown skull and jaw didn't have the high fluorine levels of other ancient fossils from the same gravel pit. They seemed to be only about 50,000 years old, not the 500,000 years everyone had claimed. This was a huge problem. Modern humans already existed 50,000 years ago. Piltdown Man could no longer be a missing link. The mystery deepened. Oakley joined forces with 2 other scientists from Oxford University, anatomist Wilfrid Le Gros-Clark and anthropologist Joseph Weiner. Together, they hit the bones with a whole battery of modern tests. In 1953, they delivered the final crushing verdict. First, a more refined fluorine test revealed something stunning. The cranium and the jaw weren't even the same age. The skull was medieval, only about 600 years old, while the jaw was from a modern orangutan. Then, they looked closer. Under a microscope, they saw clear scratches on the teeth. They had been deliberately filed down to fake the wear pattern of a human diet. The jaw itself had been broken in just the right places to hide the fact that it wouldn't actually fit a human skull. And finally, they found the bones had been artificially stained, probably with an iron solution and chromic acid, to make them look ancient and match the color of the gravel. The conclusion was undeniable, and it sent shockwaves through the world. The Piltdown Man was a fake. On November 21st, 1953, the New York Times declared, "Piltdown Man hoax is exposed." One paper called it the biggest scientific hoax of the century. It was an extraordinarily skillful and unscrupulous fraud that had fooled the scientific world for 41 years. So, the mystery was solved. Or was it? We knew it was a hoax, but the biggest question was still out there. Who did it? Before we get into the suspects, if you want more stories about how science corrects its mistakes, check out our video on the biggest scientific myths people still believe. And if you're new here, think about subscribing so you don't miss our next investigation. With the hoax exposed, a new manhunt began, this time for the forger. The list of suspects over the years has been wild, even including Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, the creator of Sherlock Holmes, who lived nearby and was into geology. But the spotlight has always swung back to one man, Charles Dawson. The case against him is overwhelming. For one, he was the person who discovered all the key evidence. No other important fossils were ever found at Piltdown after he died in 1916. He was the only person with a direct link to both the first and second Piltdown sites. On top of that, research into Dawson's life has uncovered a long history of other forgeries. An analysis of his personal collection found that at least 38 of his other discoveries were fakes. His motive seems clear. He was desperate for the fame that a major find would bring. A 2016 study using modern DNA and imaging technology concluded that the methods used to fake all the specimens were consistent, pointing to a single forger. That forger, they concluded, was almost certainly Charles Dawson. Whether he had help is still up for debate, but his role as the main culprit is now widely accepted. The legacy of the Piltdown hoax is complicated. For 40 years, it twisted our understanding of human evolution, sending researchers down a blind alley and delaying the acceptance of real fossils like the tongue child. It's a powerful cautionary tale about confirmation bias, about scientists wanting to believe something so badly that they overlook the evidence staring them in the face. But there's another, more powerful side to this story. It's about how science, eventually, fixes itself. It wasn't journalists or outside critics who exposed the fraud, it was scientists themselves. Using rigorous testing, healthy skepticism, and new technologies, they uncovered the truth and corrected the record. The story of Piltdown Man isn't just about the greatest hoax in science, it's a perfect example of the self-correcting nature of the scientific process. The truth, in the end, will out. But what do you think? Do you believe Charles Dawson acted alone, or was someone else from the scientific establishment in on the biggest lie in science? Let me know your theories in the comments below.